And welcome to another episode of PWT Talks NXT. I'm your host, Nate Lindberg, here to talk NXT for October 21st, 2025. Had quite an interesting show tonight, a lot to talk about. And it's too bad I didn't have somebody like, Kevin here to talk wrestling with
Say
me.
his name and he appears.
I couldn't resist. Joe Hendry. Oh, there he is. Yes.
It's almost
There he
like we
is.
planned that.
Almost like we actually didn't. We didn't plan that at all.
We did not
That was
plan that.
cool. If you're listening, he held. And you're not listening on YouTube. You're listening to the recording. He held up a Joe Hendry bust that I 3D printed and sent him. So there we go. Kevin, how you doing tonight, man?
Nate, I am fantastic. Thanks so much for asking me to hop on. I'm always happy to talk wrestling and always happy to hang out with you. And I can already see that the best chat in the PWTorch family is rocking and rolling already. Derek, sorry, man. I don't know that I own a Midnight Electric Blue shirt, but I might need to go buy one if the crowd asks for it. Then I must acquiesce.
Yes. I think you also need to get like the blonde wig too, and like just go all in, man. Go all
Listen,
in.
if I can be accused of anything, it's going overboard. So yes, I will gladly go find a wig, because the good Lord knows I'm not blessed with it up top naturally. So,
You and me both. That's why I'm wearing a hat.
Hi,
All
CJ.
right, CJ, see you in the chat there. How you doing, man? See, got Derek, we got Ryan, everybody. The chat's hopping. So let's get to our show and talk about our main event segment, a contract signing between Trick Williams and Ricky Saints for the NXT title coming up at Halloween Havoc. I'm very torn on this segment. Because on one hand, it was really good. Ricky Saints cut a scathing promo. I mean, he got red in the face and right up in Trick Williams' face. Very energetic. I thought this was very, very well done and well executed, especially on Ricky Saints' part. Trick did a good job too, don't get me wrong, but I was really impressed with Ricky here. What I didn't like is this segment was exactly what I thought it was going to be, what I knew it was going to be. They come down, there's a table, they sit down at the table, Ava's sitting at the table, she's got a contract. One of them says, I'm better than you and I'm going to win at the PLE. The other one says, I'm better than you and I'm going to win at the PLE. They start fighting, one puts the other through a table, and whoever didn't get put through the table holds the title up. That's every single contract signing ever, except I think one where somebody didn't get put through a table. I don't know. There might have been a couple more than that. There was at least one I remember. I don't remember any details about it, but I remember it happening and being like, whoa, nobody got put through a table. That being said, considering it was exactly what I thought it was going to be, it was on the better side. Like I said, Ricky especially here, I think. I haven't been, and I said this last week, I haven't been super, super high on him so far. Like last week, there's just something about him as champion that I wasn't buying, I wasn't believing in, and I even said it. I couldn't put my finger on it, and I don't know if I still can put my finger on what exactly it was. But tonight, this made me believe in him a little bit more. Also, that being said, I don't know how much, out of everything else going on in NXT, this is like one of the angles that I care the least about. It's not that it's a bad angle by any stretch, but there's so many other good things going on that like, it's like, oh yeah, Trick and Ricky, yep, for the title. So anyway, let me throw it over to you, Kevin. Your thoughts on the contract signing, and how have you felt Ricky's reign as champion? I know he hasn't defended the title yet. We're coming up to his first title defense on Saturday. But how do you feel he's been portrayed as champion so far?
Yeah, I agree with Derek that I think that Trick very much is oozing in confidence. Dare I say, and I mean only in respect, that Trick to me is channeling a little bit of peak Razor Ramon, perhaps, in just the way he's carrying himself. Now, justified or not remains to be seen, at least in this feud here. But, I think it's good that, and I know that Nate, you and I have talked about this, and I know Kelly. I mean, I think many of the pundits in this family of networks has talked about how you want to see and you want to feel and you want to believe authenticity. And I think what we saw from Trick, especially as he started getting fired up there towards the middle and end, felt real because I think he's allowing some of that personality and some of that real life to come through. Now, on the other side, I thought Ricky did a fantastic job. I think maybe the thing, and I don't want to put words or thoughts into your mouth or head, Nate, but I think that the thing that struck me as I was watching that is I believed Ricky, but I think the issue is because this is sort of a David Goliath thing, but David is the one that has the championship. It's harder to buy the bark because when you stand him next to Trick, it's like in real life, there is no way in hell that you would come out of this on the other end still champion. And so I think there's a little bit of that like cognitive dissonance between the words we're hearing him say and what we're seeing with our eyes. But I think very much that he was believable. I think that this is going to be a very good test for him, and to see if the trust that they've put in him right now is well placed. Because I think, I don't know that NXT is known for this, where the main roster would call an audible the day of a PLE, but I could very easily see them if they for some reason don't think that Ricky's their guy to carry this even for the next 2, 3, or 4 months, they have full confidence in Trick. And so I could very easily see them calling it if they needed to. But I do think that Ricky will win, and I think that this will be a good chance for him to show kind of what that full package is.
Indeed, indeed. No, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there. I mean, he's had a good he has had a good like presentation and whatnot so far. I'm looking forward to the match. Like I said, it's probably the one I'm looking forward to the least on the show, but I think on Halloween Havoc. But at the same time, I'm looking forward to the entire card. So I'm not saying that's a low bar or whatever right now. But it's going to be interesting to see how Ricky Saints is portrayed in the match and how he wins. I'm assuming he's going to win. I don't think he's going to lose his first title defense. And I don't think they're going to do the whole I was going to say the whole Trick 2 belts thing, but I forgot he lost to Santana. I was in the building for that. How did I forget that? But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. In the chat, Derek says, you knew it was going to go down. One of the tropes in wrestling. Trick, from his perspective, he didn't need the indies, while Ricky spent so many years on the indies. And it was one of the things I wasn't thinking about that going into to this segment, but once they touched on that, I was like, oh yeah, definitely, of course, that they're going to touch on that. And I think in a way, I think it's kind of smart to do, especially where Trick's the heel, Ricky's the babyface, gets a little bit more sympathy on Ricky. That he did spend so many years, grinding away on the indies, and Trick's kind of, I don't want to say I guess in comparison, a silver spoon in his mouth. It's not the case, but that's what I'm going to say for the sake of argument right now. So I think it worked. And Derek also says that Ricky believes in himself and comes off as authentic on screen. I
but listen, if you scroll, where's Steve? Steve, I think I like Steve's point there regarding seeming to be missing a level of confidence.
Right here.
Because I think the issue there, and I agree with that, is Ricky had not wrestled in a while. And so I think when you wrestle Oba and win once, it's like the whole March Madness thing, right? Like any team can get hot and win when they shouldn't in a one-game playoff. But I think had they taken time to build Ricky in beating some more credible people on his way to Oba, then I feel like we're in a better place for this title feud. But right now, I'd imagine there are some fans that think, well, geez, he kind of caught fire and beat Oba kind of out of nowhere, and now all of a sudden he's going against, a previous champ. I could see that very much being a thought that's sitting in people's brains right now as we head into Saturday. But like I said, I think that in the same way that we were wondering about Ethan Page when he first came over, I do think that Ricky is going to pay off our cautious optimism and show us why he deserved more in his previous stop, and that he's going to earn sort of the attention he's going to get. So.
And just for anybody listening to the audio podcast later, the comment that Steve made in the chat was that Ricky seems to be missing a level of confidence that you'd expect from somebody who beat Obafemi for the title. And I think that's a really good point. I think it's a really good point. Ryan says, bless you, Nate. Thank you. I sneezed. I think I hit the mute button in time, but maybe not. Ryan also says, I forgot that Mike Santana won because I saw the Dudleys retire. And yeah, that's probably right. So there is that. Yeah, no, so yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens on Saturday. Like I said, I'm expecting this to be a really good match between the two. But I am expecting Ricky to retain. I'd be very surprised if Trick does win it for a third time. Somebody correct me. If he did, would he be the only third-time NXT champion?
No, I feel like Gargano or Ciampa or somebody is in that, like.
Yeah, I think because I was in the building when Samoa Joe won, and I think he was the first time. It was first two-time NXT champion, but I know.
Or did Finn do it when Finn won it when he did that quick comeback as the Prince? I don't know that he'd be the first. Yeah. I think that he'd be in a very small group, but
so actually, yeah, I think it's Samoa Joe because he won it for. There's Steve and Ryan are saying in the chat Samoa Joe, and it is Samoa Joe because he won it right before NXT 2.0, and then he got fired and the title was vacated. So and he won it for the second time on April 21st, 2016. I've got the poster of the event right up above me. So there's that. So okay. So he wouldn't be the first person to win it three times. Like I said, I thought there was somebody somebody else that had won it, and between the two of us and our wonderful people in the chat, we got there.
This is why we have the best chat in all PWTorch, I have to say.
Exactly. And by the way, nice hat.
You couldn't be the only one. Come on now.
But yeah, I think a three-time championship reign would be a nice feather in Trick's hat. Especially if he does maintain a heel persona if and when I should say he goes to the main roster, because it's something he can kind of, like I said, put a feather in his cap, talk about that being a three-time champion. I kind of liked the fact that he even did the whole Booker T 5-time, except said 3-time, and even looked at Booker T, I think during the second time he said it, because he could even take that and use that once again and get a little bit of heat with it. It's such a well-known catchphrase from Booker T that I think just retooling it and taking a Legends catchphrase and turning it into something of your own, especially in that heely, smarky way. That's people are going to boo that. They're going to hate that. So, I mean,
right, listen,
to the point they love it.
Brain explosion here, Nate. And also, Derek, thank you for your beautiful compliment on my hat. As a quick aside, and Nate, I don't know if your hat has a story. I got mine on a trip to Ireland from a little town where these are all handmade. And apparently each patch, if those of you who are watching on YouTube can see the color, different patches, they're all scraps from wool blazers that this little shop makes.
Oh,
and
cool.
He saves all the scraps and he'll reuse, so no two hats are exactly the same, which I think is just so cool. And of course it keeps my bald head warm. But
so my hat does have a similar story. It's from the Amazon, but I mean Amazon.com.
The wise forest of the Amazon, yes.
Yes.
But Nate, what do you think? I just really thought of this as you were talking about Trick and Booker T. What if Booker, because we know that there are a lot of people that wish that he would hang up the microphone and give someone else a chance to be the color commentator. What if Booker T took on his coach role from LFG and created a stable with Trick and Jasper Troy and maybe one other guy, and sort of became that coach manager, maybe in the way that MVP couldn't or didn't, and sort of allow him to use the expertise that he is so ready to give to these guys when he talks about them, and actually like do it as part of a gimmick if Trick is going to stay in NXT.
Yeah, that could. I mean, that could definitely work. That could definitely work too, for sure. Sure.
And CJ, you're not bugging us, man. You're all right. Stay put.
Yes, or I mean to say no. You're not bugging us. I was saying yes in agreement with Kevin, but no, not at all. You're always welcome to stay, hang out, talk some wrestling with us. As is everybody. This is a welcoming channel. At least a welcoming show. I mean, it's a welcoming channel too, but I only have control over this show, so there we go. All right, moving on here. Let's. I'm going to scroll all the way to the top of my notes and let's talk about how we opened here tonight. So we opened up with Stax versus, well, the first match anyway, Stax versus Leon Slater for the TNA X Division title. Oh, sorry, I was trying to reread my notes. We did have a segment for that. It was the Tatum Paxley and the Culling segment. We'll talk about that later. Because I'd rather talk about Stax and Leon Slater for the X Division title. I thought this was a really fun match. It's exactly kind of what I expected this to be, in terms of, high flying, kind of bombastic. Obviously, I couldn't predict moves or anything like that. But I mean, Stax has always been a performer that I feel like is a bit underrated. I feel like his in-ring work is great. I mean, we talked about it many times when he's part of the D'Angelo family. He would wrestle circles around, Tony D'Angelo, and D'Angelo is the star of the group, the focus of the group, the Don of NXT, if you will. So I kind of knew coming into this with him partnered up with somebody like Leon Slater, who is absolutely incredible. They were going to make some magic, and I feel like they did here. This was your typical NXT kind of high flying style match. Not necessarily your grab a hold and grab a leg and work a leg, work a limb, something like that. But I don't think many people are expecting to see that when you're watching NXT anyway. I really like Leon Slater. As the X Division champion, I'm starting to keep up with TNA a little bit more now, especially with the crossover involvement, between the two. And I mean, watching his matches so far, for the X Division title, where he won his title defenses, especially his match, the match between he and Javon Evans at Bound for Glory. I think that was the match of the night for Bound for Glory. The Hardys and the Dudleys was the spectacle of the night, but Leon and Javon was by far the match of the night for me anyway. Leon, I would love to see him make his way over to WWE. Not that I'm saying TNA, isn't a good place for him or whatever, but just like Jordan Grace, like we presume Joe Hendry is going to be, and countless others before and after. I'd like to see Leon, get some more time on NXT TV. Hey, there we go, Joe Hendry.
You said his name. He had to.
I said his name. Yeah, I'd like to see him on WWE TV, at some point. I guess we can even lump this segment into the match. We saw Javon Evans and Leon Slater backstage after witnessing. Actually, I guess it does tie into this because they were they witnessed Stax and Ariana Grace walking backstage, and Stax was like, "Hey, why did you call me Santino's future son-in-law last week?" And Ariana's like, "Oops, I let a few things slide." So I'm thinking that might actually be something that's an angle they're playing into. I don't know if they've done anything off WWE or NXT TV, like on social media or Evolve or even TNA for that matter, because I haven't actually watched the last couple episodes of Impact. But it looks like they might be engaged or something. But to circle back to the first point I was talking about, surprisingly, I didn't lose my place. Javon Evans and Leon Slater were seen, in this afterwards, kind of after as Stax and Ariana Grace walked away, talking about how they made magic at Bound for Glory without calling it Bound for Glory. Just they said they did it in singles competition. They made some magic in the ring, and they'd like to do it again in a tag team match. And oh man, who else? I didn't have it up on my screen. Didn't they? Oh, we did. Yeah. Dr. Iguana and Mr. Iguana and La Parka.
Listen, he could be pursuing his terminal degree. He might be doctor before too long.
You're right. Mr. Iguana, it's Dr. Wagner, and Dr. Wagner was on the show a little bit later. Mr. Iguana and La Parka were revealed later on in the night to be their next opponents. So a lot to talk about there, because I went into a bunch of different segments that are all pieced together that I wasn't necessarily thinking about going into when I started talking. But let me throw it to you on the match. I guess the match, the thought of another tag team bout between or with Javon Evans and Leon and their kind of surprise opponents in Mr. Iguana and La Parka. And of course, it's probably going to be a bit of a handicap match because Layeska is going to be in there.
Listen, you can never count Layeska out. That's the X factor. That was actually my first time getting to see Leon Slater wrestle. And I very much loved his vibe, what he was about. I think, and like you said, I hope that they do feature him a bit more on NXT TV. And you mentioned that they referenced the match between Slater and Javon without saying where. And I guess I don't really fully understand that if they've acknowledged that there's a professional working relationship, why they couldn't say TNA's biggest show of the year, Bound for Glory. That doesn't seem like that would violate anything, but I'm not in the truck. I don't know.
No, it's weird because before the show, like before Bound for Glory happened, they were sort of promoting it. I don't even know if I don't remember them putting graphics on the screen or anything like that, but they were certainly talking about it on commentary. They might have put graphics up. I don't honestly remember. But I've noticed at least this week anyway, they did not mention Bound for Glory. They have in the past. Yeah. But I'm pretty sure the only other segment that would have happened was Dark State and the Hardys, and I don't think they did there.
Yeah, I think it's a moot point at this point. But you'd think if they are sharing talent and they're doing all that you should be able to mention it. But in any event, I really liked what I saw. I did not get a chance to see the Bound for Glory match and only had your comments off air to sort of base an opinion on, but I thought he worked really, really well in that ring. Oftentimes one of the things that I pay attention to that I don't know if I'm the only one, but I know that the WWE ring is typically 2 to 3 square feet larger than most other companies' rings. Yep. I think they use, now again, this is inside baseball perhaps, but I think that they use either like a 19 by 19 or a 20 by 20 ring, and most places use like a 16 by 16 ring, something like that.
So WWE is a 20-foot, and I'm fairly sure, and I'm not 100% sure, but the ring when I was at Bound for Glory looked smaller than a WWE ring. I don't think it was, I think it was an 18 by 18.
Yeah. I know that most rings are at least 2 square feet shorter, if not 3. And so I always try to pay attention to how the wrestler who's wrestling in the smaller ring adapts to the extra space, because it is more room to work with. And it looks like CJ, the chat comes through again to confirm the WWE 2020. Good job there, CJ. I look for that because I think you sort of get used to operating in smaller spaces where the timing is different and the speed is different. And like I said, I thought Leon looked to fill that space pretty well. Now, again, I imagine when they choose opponents for the TNA performers or any of the sort of mixed match talent, that they probably let them run around in the performance center a little bit, but I also think they pair them with people who can help fill that space a bit. So I know that's all very intentional, but even still, that's a lot of room to work with when you're not used to working with that kind of room. So I thought he filled the space very well. I liked a lot of his moveset. I thought while some of it was typical high flyer, there were some twists he put on, some things that I was like, oh, okay. And I love that finishing move that he did, his version of the 450 or whatever it was.
Oh yeah.
Um, and so yeah, so I think he did really well. I really like him and Javon playing off each other. Um, it was either Ryan or Derek earlier in the chat asked to come up with a nick or their tag team name. I would need far more time to think of that. But like, as much as they are individual performers that are both great in their own right, I think there's some legs to a tag team to let these guys kind of go for a little bit and feed off each other. Because I tell you what, I don't know too many other teams that would have the energy and would outwork those two in terms of just ring movement. And so I'd be interested to see them kind of work together. Um, but yeah, I thought the match was fine. I think Stax is doing well. I think it was maybe Derek, or maybe it was Ryan again, that talked about Oba being in the wrestler protection program. Is that also where the Don is? Because I don't even think we've heard that name on TV in a while. So maybe
Yeah.
he is also living in Palm Springs under an assumed name, and we just don't know it yet. Um,
Well, I mean, he did kill a guy.
well,
Well, I mean,
Brick killed a guy
two
too, by
times.
the way.
Brick, where'd you get a
Uh,
trident? I
sorry for
don't
those of
know.
you not up to Anchorman standards. That's what it was.
Y'all better be. Y'all
I
better
hope
be.
so. So yeah, so I think overall, I hope that they bring Leon back. Certainly, they'll have him on the tag team match with Javon, but like, I don't see why there's any reason why he can't sort of offer a cross promotional um, like series of like open challenges for the X Division title,
Oh yeah.
and sort of say whether you're TNA, NXT, WWE, I'll take any junior heavyweight or X Division, whatever, because I think he could have really good matches with a lot of the folks who would qualify for that, um, and I'd love to see all of them. So yeah, so I think overall it was a really good first impression on NXT TV anyway. Certainly, I'd love to hear what Shawn Michaels or Triple H's thoughts were, because I'm sure they were both watching intently. Um, so yeah, I'd love to see more of him, and I'd like to see where both his angle with Javon goes, and where the budding relationship with um, soon to be Mr. Santino Marella and his daughter go. So
Yes, yes, yes. So he was on. He has had at least, I think, there's one other match on NXT TV so far. He was in a tag match with Javon against somebody. It might have been. It might have even been Dark State, but I don't. I don't actually remember off the top of my head right now. I think it might have been Dark State. Actually, must have been, because Dark State interfered in their match at Bound for Glory. That feud's been going on for a little bit. I'm pretty sure it was against Dark State. Either that or Dark State interfered in that match. But Jobin just messaged me on Discord to remind me that Tony allegedly killed a guy.
yes, nothing's been proven in
Allegedly.
a court of law
Right.
yet.
Right. And I don't mean my roommate, although the jury's still out on that could have happened. Anyway, so yeah, all right, let's move on. So let's actually talk about our opening segment here. The Culling and Tatum Paxley made their way to the ring for the first time since Tatum won last week the Women's Battle Royal to give her the right to face JC Jane at Halloween Havoc for the NXT Women's Championship. They came out to the ring. Izzy and Tatum hugged in the middle of the ring before Tatum, grabbed the mic and gave a pretty. I would say it was probably the best promo I've heard her give so far. Not that she gets a ton of mic time in the ring. She gets a lot of talking time backstage, but not so much in the ring with a live mic, or at least that I can remember. And basically talked about how she's always had one friend that have always stood behind her, and we were kind of expecting her to say either Izzy, maybe Lyra, but instead she says that the NXT. She doesn't say the NXT universe. I think she actually like looks around and points around and is like, all of you, and I'm like, wouldn't that be like thousands of friends, not one? But you know what? That's fine.
The collective, the royal
semantics.
Yes.
But yeah, continue to kind of praise the culling and her best friend Izzy for her recent success and all of that. Obviously, there's been some the way that they've had this been telling the story leading up to this is that almost kind of. The Culling's kind of like a cult, and they've almost like taken Tatum Paxley in. I wouldn't say against her will, but she's innocent and doesn't know what she's getting into, kind of a deal. And kind of they kept playing that up, where in front of everybody they look like a big family, but of course, as soon as they get behind the curtain, those shenanigans are going to start again, at least in kayfabe anyway. Yeah, then what happened? There was something else that happened in here. Oh, yeah, that's right. Fatal Influence made their way out to the ring. And essentially a match was made between Fatal Influence and wow, I like started thinking about something else real quick about something else on the show, and I completely just derailed me, so I apologize. But yeah, made a match for the Culling versus Fatal Influence later on in the show. So I guess we could actually even lump that in here as well. Let me find that in my notes. Yes, so the Culling versus Fatal Influence. This was Laney Reed's first match as an official member of the Culling, teaming up against
Fatal Influence.
Did I say Fatal Attraction?
No. You said that Laney Reed was the first time showing for the Culling, didn't you?
Oh, yes, I think I did say that. Thank you. I think I did say that. This was Laney Reed's first showing for Fatal Influence, not the Culling. Teaming up with JC Reed. The Culling obviously was Tatum and Izzy. This was a pretty good match, and Tatum ate the pin at the end. I think it was JC that covered her, but after the match, Tatum essentially was able to kind of fend off all three members of Fatal Influence and stand tall, holding the title over her head, kind of getting the visual win, even though she got the pin here. So if anything wrestling tells me that since she got the visual win here tonight, and she got pinned, if she got pinned and didn't kind of get that visual win after, I was thinking, okay, maybe she's going to actually beat JC Jane. But then where she got the visual win after beating everybody down and holding up the title to close out the show, or not close out the show, close out that segment rather. Now I'm kind of wondering, maybe she doesn't wind up getting that. I think there's still a chance that she may wind up dethroning JC Jane, but. And God, I'd love to see it because I'm a big fan of Tatum Paxley and this particular character. But there's also part of me that it almost feels like if she won, it would almost be like that. I don't want to say annoying little sister, but like almost like a little sister winning something that she's not ready to win yet. So I don't know. Take that for what you will. But that being said, I thought this was this tag match was a lot of fun. Izzy Dame certainly just getting out there and kind of showing what she's improved and worked on over the last handful of months. Actually, I guess really a year plus now. Because Kelly and I, when she first debuted, we talked quite a bit about how every time she would show up on TV, we would have to be, who is that? Like, oh, Izzy Dame, right? We would have to wait until they actually said her name to like even recognize her, and which is weird for me because I'm really good with remembering faces, and every time she showed up, it was like I couldn't place her. But now she's at a point where I think she could even flirt with the main event title scene herself. maybe not win the title, but I mean, like I said, kind of flirt in that spot, almost kind of like where Tatum is right now. And quite honestly, I kind of expected her to before Tatum did, if you would have asked me a few weeks ago, anyway. So, anyway, with all of that, Kevin, let me throw it to you on our opening segment and the match with the culling and fatal not attraction.
Fatal not attraction. No, I thought it all did what it needed to do. I think if there's one thing that I've come to appreciate about JC Jane in her current iteration is she's become a really good talker. I think that she plays the pot stirring heel very well. Now the formula is not complicated, but even still, you have to be able to pull it off. And I know we've seen plenty of wrestlers who will look out into the stands and call the fans morons, and you're like, you don't actually believe it. Like, I don't buy you saying that. But like with sort of that Northeast New Yorky type accent she has, like you believe her when she says that. And I think she's really come into her own on the mic and sort of in the way that she cuts promos. And so I think in that way, she's really established herself. I see that Ryan is calling for a Tatum victory on Saturday, but Nate, kind of with what you were talking about, I feel like I worry that if Tatum wins, you've put the belt on now two women that you could realistically say are the most beatable champ. And why do they have it, and when will they lose it?
That's a good
And
point.
and I think part of the issue is NXT is lacking the dominant woman right now, and at least in terms of the booking, right? Like I think, in my own personal opinion, they should have strapped a rocket to Jordan Grace when she first came over,
Yep.
and and really let her run because she's proven that she could do it in TNA and other places. And I just think that she's been neutered lately, even in as much as she has still been mashing the people she's been wrestling. I don't see her in the way that I did when she first came in, and I was like, oh, here we go. Like I know who this woman is, and she is just going to wreck people's days. And so I think there isn't the Asuka or the Shayna or the Stephanie or whoever to really say, regardless of if that person is the champion or not. I think we're seeing sort of the developmental title of what NXT is. We're seeing those gears really spin right now because they're having to give TV time and development time to a good handful of women to see if they will sink or float, um, as they try to figure out who the next block of women are going to be. And I don't think that's a bad thing, but I think to have a PL, one of your like nostalgic PLEs coming up, and even to this point, people are still skeptical of JC Jane as the champ. To put her up against someone who we're even more skeptical about, um, I don't unfortunately think that Tatum will win because I don't know if they want to hear two champions in a row of, because if Tatum is playing the baby face, certainly you don't want her winning week in and week out because of the culling, because that's a heel move, right? That's not a face move. And so I think you're kind of booked yourself. Um, you've painted yourself into a corner, as it were, where the only real outcome, I think, is JC winning, as they continue to look for sort of who will come out of the 6 to 8 women they're currently investing time in that can maybe become that next sort of big thing.
Yeah, no, you actually make a really good point. And I wasn't, I was thinking about it, but without, I guess, the exact, like you put into words what I was thinking. In terms of her being at the second beatable champion in a row. I guess that's kind of what I meant when I said it would almost be like your little sister winning the title, type of a deal. Somebody wasn't quite ready, because she doesn't, as much as I love Tatum Paxley, she doesn't necessarily feel like she should be holding the title, be that face of the company, if you will, as Ricky Saints called himself earlier in the night. Or face of the brand, not necessarily company. So yeah, I do. I think they might have booked themselves in a bit of a corner in that regard because, like you said, if Tatum does win, she's with a heel faction, so that could still, they could still tell that story. That could make for some compelling TV where, she's kind of torn and going back and forth between, what's right. And because obviously she's still, has her kind of innocent, I'm going to call them innocent morals just for lack of a better term right now. And it's kind of the calling that's kind of trying to turn her to the dark side. And then, now she's got the title, she's the champion, so she has to wrestle with, what do I do? Do I do what my culling family is telling me, and and have more of a chance of retaining my title, or do I do what's right and what the babyface would do, what's righteous? So that could make for some compelling TV, and I'm almost talking myself into it while I'm kind of talking about it. But at the same time, like you said, do they want to tell that story where two of their NXT champions in a row have that, beatable champion kind of stank on them? I don't know. Obviously, we'll see what happens at Halloween Havoc, but
well, and I tell you, if I were to put my D&D lens over things, Tatum is very much a chaotic good character, where I think at the end of the day, she means well and she wants to be kind of on her own, but she is surrounded by sort of the devils on the shoulder that could push her in a direction that either she eventually rebels against or rebels initially against. And then just quick, sorry if I might, because Derek mentioned her unintentionally, but I wonder too if in letting Zarya defend the North American Championship, is this her test run? Because when they brought her in, she's another person that I thought you should have strapped a rocket to and let her.
Yep.
She had the look, she has the size, she has the feel, and you sort of paired her with Saul, which hasn't been a bad thing, but we've seen far more of Saul wrestling and far less of Zarya wrestling. And so
Yeah.
I'm hopeful that maybe this could be her chance to show maybe I can be that centerpiece woman.
No, that's that's a good point. That's definitely a good point. I think those Jordan Grace and Zarya they were really I don't want to say casualties of Julia and Stephanie, but I think they kind of came in at an unfortunate time where the rocket was already strapped to Julia and to Stephanie, and they kind of lost a little bit of steam, lost a little bit of momentum. But since you brought it up, let's talk about the Sol Ruca, Zarya, Blake Monroe segment, and Ava. She was in it too. So Sol had a match, I guess Zaruka, both of them. They had a match for the tag titles against Charlotte and Alexa on SmackDown on Friday. And unfortunately, Sol was injured in the match. I think from everything that I can tell, it looks like it's a legit injury, but it looks like it's something that's probably just going to keep her out of action for a little bit and not for the long term. And the reason I say that is because during this segment, they were kind of dancing. It seemed like Sol was about to relinquish the title, both titles, both the Speed and North American title at the beginning of this segment. Sol kind of, she takes the floor, or Ava gives her the floor, and Sol cuts a very believable, at least to me, a believable and emotional promo saying, kind of talking about how she doesn't want to do this and she's worked very hard for this. And you can, it almost feels like she's fighting back tears. And if she is really injured and it's kind of derailing her momentum, they probably were real tears and it wasn't acting. Otherwise, hey, Sol, you're doing pretty good with acting. Blake Monroe, I think it was at this point Blake Monroe comes out and kind of interrupts her and talks about how if there is, since she's the number one contender, if the title's going to be vacated, she should automatically be crowned champion. What is this? Triple H in 2003 with the world title? Come on. I think it was 03. It might have been 04. I'm going to say 03. When Bischoff just handed him the title. We don't do that down here in NXT. And that's basically what Zarya told her, that this is NXT. We don't do handouts. And she came up with an idea that if, Sol Ruca can't defend the North American title against Blake Monroe on Saturday at Halloween Havoc, she's like, I'll do it for you. I'll defend the title for you. Sol Ruca thought this is a great idea. She's like, there's nobody I trust more than you to defend my title that I've worked so hard for. So, yeah, sure, that sounds good to me. And Ava was like, okay, cool, that sounds good to me too. And she made the match official for Halloween Havoc. I love this. I don't love the fact that Sol Ruca got injured. That nobody wants to see anybody get injured. But I think they are, well, as the infamous wrestling saying goes, they are making chicken salad out of chicken S. Because it sucks. She was booked for a match. She's a dual champion. She gets hurt. But if they're playing this angle here where Zarya is only defending the title for one shot, either Zarya is going to defend it, Sol retains the title, and she comes back, in a few weeks or whatever and continues on her run, or if it's going to keep her out longer, Zarya loses the title, and that just fans the flames for when Sol Ruca comes back. The feud between she and Zarya can finally take hold, because we've been kind of sowing those seeds for a breakup there between these two for months at this point. I love this idea. This is something we've seen a handful of times where a champion would get injured. I know there was an instance where I want to say, oh no, I was going to say Cody was champion and his partner got injured, but no, Cody turned on that's right. Cody turned on Hardcore Holly. I think it was Hardcore Holly in the match and became his own opponent and won with, I think it was Randy Orton or something, and became tag team champion. So it wasn't Cody Rhodes, but I know we have had in the past, I think it was Naomi. She just did it, the tag titles. She stepped in with Bianca Belair when Jade Cargill got injured. So it's not unprecedented to have somebody step in for you to defend the title while injured. But it's not something we see done very often, and I don't want to see them do it any more often than this. But I think it's a really good idea. Like I said, it plays into a story that they've already been telling for months about how big of biffles these two are. They're absolute best friends. They love each other and all of that, which is just all that foreshadowing for a breakup between these two. So yeah, like I said, I think they're taking a bad situation and making the best of it with this kind of unique situation. And I think it could also potentially, as Kevin pointed out, whether it's directly or indirectly, serve as a test for Zarya. Can she handle a matchup in the spotlight with the championship around her waist, even though it's technically only hers for the match? So yeah, I don't know. I really like the way that they kind of took this situation and tried to make the best of it. So Kevin, how do you feel about this situation?
Well, I think I have to agree with Ryan and Derek that it was so heavy-handed today, and all the Twitter and social media build-up throughout the day was Sol's got a big announcement and make sure you're here because she's going to address her status. And we literally have just seen this 2 or 3 times on the main roster in the last 6 months where they are injured, they relinquish the title, but say, don't worry, I'll be back. And so it just seemed so on the nose when both Ava and Zarya were trying to talk her out of it. In the real world, why is the commissioner choosing favorites, right? That wouldn't happen. So I think that this is all the more building towards, as Todd Martin says on The Fix, some House of Torture BS that will ultimately lead to Blake winning. It's not going to be clean. It'll be through cheating or a weapon or something. But if I were to fantasy book, I would really love for Zarya to win, uphold Saul's trust. Um, and then I would love, personally, I would love this to be a babyface duo that splits amicably. Like, I would love for her to win to say, wow, I didn't know if I had this in me or not, but I do. Let's continue to be best friends, but we're going to go our separate ways because now I want to try to win this thing for real. And let them split that way without having to turn on each other. And I think in that way we can start to sort of build the idea that not every group that gets together has to have the big nasty breakup. But I think that they have survived enough in the same way that Fraxium has survived quite a few of those breakup attempts, where you would believe two worthy competitors would say, you know what, we've had a good ride together, but why don't I take I'm thinking about how like Ryu ends Street Fighter 2, where he picks up his bag and he goes, you know what, Ken, I'll see you down the road and maybe we'll fight again. I think that would be an acceptable storyline for this, and let her try to work her way to a singles title and show everybody what they can do. So I think that's more in my head than anything else. But if things play out the way that WWE typically books, I could very easily see Blake winning with all sorts of BS going on in the background, that just sort of leaves Saul standing on looking like, oh, I knew I shouldn't have, done this, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I hope it will be entertaining. Like I said, I still don't feel like we've seen a good full match from Blake Monroe yet. And I really am trying to give her the benefit of the doubt in terms of seeing why she made the jump from AEW and why she is deserving of our time and our attention. And I think a PLE match in a championship setting could be a very good way to see why she is ready to put the rubber to the road. So I'm excited for that. But like I said, I know that, and I think Derek and Ryan both really hinted at it, that incoming women's class of Julia and Stephanie and Zaria and Jordan, like, we're just this like perfect storm of only one of these women is going to come out of this as like the top dog, and everyone else is going to have to figure it out. When if each of them came in 2, 3, 4 months apart, they could have established themselves a little better. So I am secretly hoping that 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 Zarya does acquit herself well and sort of show why she had the hype she came in with, despite how they booked her to this point, and kind of again let her sort of go on that Ronin journey of trying to get back to a title to win one legitimately.
We had, I think it was Derek and Ryan both correcting me. It was Ted DiBiase Jr. that Cody beat himself with turning on Hardcore Holly. So thank you guys. I knew Randy Orton didn't sound right, but it was the right time frame. I knew that anyway because of the their stable there. So
also interesting Hardcore Holly fact: he lives in my town.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, he and his wife live on the north end of town and like work out at the YMCA and are at the grocery store. So
that's simultaneously cool and kind of terrifying.
I would imagine that when he comes into the weight room, folks probably get up and walk out. I wouldn't blame them.
And I'm sure he probably looks just as jacked as he did 20
years ago. Oh, no, he
ago.
does. He does.
Yeah. That does not surprise me.
And probably
whatsoever.
He even looks more scary than he did because now he doesn't have, like, his hair is like he's losing his hair and it's short cropped, where at least when he was Spark Plug, he had that full head of hair. But yeah, I think that's kind of a cool, if you were wondering where in the world he ended up, Northeast Iowa in the middle of the country. There you go.
All right. Well, there we go. Yeah, I was gonna say something, and then you just.
I'm sorry, I cut you off. I apologize.
It is very easy to derail me. Don't worry about it. You'll notice when I start talking, I look down, so I don't look at my screens and get distracted by anything. And sometimes I still get distracted by something. I remember what I was gonna say. Ryan was like, me and my friends still wonder if that made Cody a 2-time tag team champion. LOL. And I would say yes, because I know when I've looked at the tag team title lineage in the past on WWE.com, it lists him twice, back to back as champion. So I'm gonna say it does. It made him a two-time tag team champion, even though he went into it as a tag team champion and came out of it a tag team champion. Um, I don't know, wrestling. Wrestling's weird. Wrestling's weird. Ooh, here's a question I want to know. Doesn't Hardcore Holly have tattoo sleeves now?
I cannot confirm or deny the existence of tattoo sleeves,
Ah,
but the next time I see him out, I will make a mental image and I will report back dutifully once I have that information.
just don't run up to him and try to pull up his sleeves. I think that would be a terrible idea.
Have you seen that series of videos online where like this small scrawny guy goes to like weightlifting conventions and like purposely bumps into them to see how they react? Like I
No.
could do that. Like I will purposely like bump into Hardcore Holly and see if I don't get choked out on the spot. I'd be willing to donate my body to science for the chat because that's how much I love you guys.
All right, all right. You know what? We'll hold you to that. We'll hold you to that. Um, Lapsed fan comes in. Is it time for me to tune in NXT again? I haven't watched in a few months. Well, I'm going to say I'm enjoying the show. There's a lot going on right now. Kind of from week to week. I mean, it's. I'm coming out of each show enjoying what I'm watching. It's not like the NXT 2.0 era where I almost quit the show because I didn't want to watch NXT 2.0 anymore. I kept it up and I'm still here, but man, I thought about it for a few weeks. So yeah, Kevin, what do you say? Do you think it's worth tuning back in?
Yeah,
And why? And why? Why
yeah,
should you tune in?
Mr. or Mrs. Lapsed fan, I definitely think now would be a time to get back in. And I was going to agree with you, Nate, that I think certainly many of us are fans of the black and gold brand. When pretty much it was kind of a Wild West brand that Vince didn't care about, and Hunter kind of got to do what he wanted and did it very well. And then NXT 2.0 was trying to be this like, let's catch the millennials, man, and we'll have tie dye and we'll do all this sort of zany, like nonsensical stuff. I would say that now I feel like the show has reverted back to black and gold, but in its truest identity as being a developmental brand. So I don't think they're trying to make any sort of they're not trying to hide the fact that these folks are not established names now, but they are giving them the WWE push. They are giving them the WWE production value to where if you do want to see who the next 5, 10, 15 years down the road folks are going to be, this is the show to do it on. And so I think, they're still getting people from indies and they're still trying to grow their own homegrown. But like I feel like they know who they are now. And I
Yep.
feel like if you're wanting to see a good blend of main roster folks coming back to say hi, the current future stars learning the trade, and now with this crossover from TNA and AAA, there really is something for everyone. And I think you're going to find a character or characters that you can really get behind,
Yeah.
and you're going to see them week to week. It's not like on the main roster where you'll see somebody and it'll be 3, 4, 5 weeks before you see them again. Like these folks are on TV getting that TV time. So
Yeah. Hey, I was kind of trying to think, as you were talking, like what's my reason, to tell somebody why to tune back in? And I was going to say, kind of something similar to that is right now with the crossover with TNA and AAA, there's so many names that I have heard. Like I've heard of Leon Slater. I had not seen Leon Slater until his first match on NXT with when he was in a tag match with Javon Evans a handful of weeks ago. And now I'm like, oh my God, this guy is absolutely amazing. It's introducing me to a whole new crop of talent that I had never seen before, in both AAA and TNA. Granted, I am watching the AAA pay-per-views and stuff, so I have, they're free on YouTube, so I guess they're not pay-per-views, but you know what I'm saying. So yeah, I like what Kevin said. There's kind of something for everybody on this show. Like tonight we got to see Mr. Iguana, and Mr. Iguana, he is on paper. This character should have zero legs. There is he's somebody that dresses like an iguana, paints his face, holds a stuffed iguana in his mouth, and calls it La Yesca, which I think is iguana in Spanish. I think somebody said that in another chat once. English is my only language, but on paper, like, this should be like the indiest of indie gimmicks, almost like Hometown Man or something in TNA. But oh my God, it works. He's so entertaining. It's comedy. It's a comedy act, but a comedy act that's also somewhat taken seriously. Yeah, so I mean, if you want the comedy stuff, you've got it there. And there's more than just Mr. Iguana. You've also people like Hank and Tank and whatnot. But if you want some good promos, you got people like Ricky Saints, you got people like Ethan Page, Trick Williams. You want some big hosses. We haven't seen him since he lost the title, but you got people like Obafemi, Jasper Troy coming up. And also the crossover with Evolve. We didn't even talk about Evolve I guess it's not really a crossover because they own it, but you know what I mean. So yeah, you've got 4 different brands right now kind of converging on NXT TV. So it's kind of taking what we already love about NXT and kind of just adding on to it and introducing us to a whole bunch of stuff. So, well, I think we did it. Roger that, Nate and Kevin. I'll give it a watch. All right. I'm glad we did it, and we were able to convince somebody to watch our favorite wrestling show, or at least my favorite wrestling show. I don't want to speak for you, but I did.
How dare you? But no, I think it is
All right.
probably mine too. I have the most investment in it, that's for sure.
Yes, me too at this point. Partly because of this show and talking with all of y'all, but even before doing this, NXT was my jam. All right, we got a lot more stuff to talk about on this show, and we've just hit the hour mark. So let's get to talking some more stuff.
Let's do our version of Speed.
Yes, well, that's where I was going. So perfect. We have 6 minutes to talk about these 2 matches. We had 2 men's speed tournament matches: Zachary Wentz versus Jasper Troy. Obviously, this was actually only a 2-minute match. Jasper Troy got the win just as the clock ticked over the second minute mark. That was a tongue twister. And then we got Axiom versus Sean Legacy. Axiom putting Evolve's Sean Legacy away in exactly, I think it was almost exactly 3 minutes. I wrote the live report tonight and forgot to actually time the matches, so apologize for that.
All right, hold on, Nate. Senior PWTorch VIP subscriber Brian Olsen has just logged in.
Oh,
hello, Brian.
Hey,
I
Brian.
think your senior status earns you an immediate stoppage of coverage to say hello. So I hope you're doing well.
There we go. I'd agree with that. I would agree with that. Hey, Brian. But what the hell was I just talking? Oh, right. Axiom and Sean Legacy.
Yes.
About exactly 3 minutes that match went. Axiom hit a Spanish fly just at the buzzer to win the match. I don't know. I've talked about it many times already on the show. I don't really like the whole speed thing. I'd prefer it not be on NXT, but whatever. I can deal with it. I'll tolerate it. The first match between Jasper Troy and Zachary Wentz, this kind of went how I expected it to, with Zachary Wentz kind of ducking and dodging and using his agility to kind of outpace Jasper Troy in the beginning of the match, but it really only took 1 or 2 real big, powerful moves for Jasper Wentz. I almost called him Jasper Wentz. For Jasper Troy to immediately take control over the match. And like I said, he picked up the win in about 2 minutes, about 2 minutes and 2 seconds, if I had to guess. And then Axiom be the other one advancing to the final to face Jasper Troy. Axiom and Sean Legacy, I feel like, was pretty 50-50. If Axiom didn't maybe give Sean Legacy just a tad bit more to kind of give him him be Sean Legacy being an evolved talent. So, it's not the first time he's been on the NXT stage, but it's I think it's the third or fourth. But I think Axiom might have given him a little bit more in the match than he took, but it was pretty much 50-50. And like I said, Axiom coming out on the at the end with the Spanish Fly to secure his win and moves on to face Jasper Troy. Although I don't really know if he won, if he's going to go on to face Jasper Troy, because I mean, have you seen the guy? But that said, like I said, they were good for what they were. I'm not a huge fan of the speed thing, but it only took up 5 minutes of NXT, so whatever. Let me throw it to you on the speed matches.
Yeah, I think the concept is both innovative and wonky all at the same time, because if you can beat somebody in 3 minutes, then why don't you do that all the time? And you're using the same athletes to do it. So the concept is wonky, but I like that idea of, throw two competitors in a small box and see how quickly one can come out on top. I do think if they want to sort of refine the speed concept, I think more parameters need to be put on it other than a timer. Maybe you decrease the size of the ring, or you build a special ring for it where like there really is only, if I can use, sorry Nate, a Magic the Gathering term, you really want that to be an aggro or an aggressive style of match. Put some constraints on it that sort of force action without being able to roll out of the ring. That if you want the concept to stick, make it stick. But I thought I really do like Jasper Troy. I am an LFG person. I've watched both seasons. I really think that that show has done well to highlight some of these folks. I think that, I think speed might be a good spot for Jasper to kind of show what he can do in spurts, because I wonder if he's there and not doing more long form matches, that maybe they're still sort of working on his motor, working on his stamina, and this is sort of a nice bite-sized piece for him. And then, of course, Axiom and Sean Legacy. That's my third or fourth time seeing Legacy wrestle. I think that he got more of the offense in that match. And so for Axiom to sort of, I don't want to say steal, but steal it with the Spanish Fly at the end kind of seemed a little like, because I do think Legacy was getting the lion's share of the offense in that match. And I think his time will come. I think he's very talented, and I would love to see more of him in the same way that I'd love to see more Leon Slater. So I think the format is what the format is. So get some people some rubs and some TV time, and just keep moving.
Yeah. Ryan coming in the chat. I think speed as a concept would work if they changed their style to a non-stop style instead of wrestling how they normally would wrestle. And I think, in a way, like I know Candice LeRae, she kind of did, and I feel like she wrestled with a little bit more urgency and stuff. But I definitely, that's kind of one of my problems with speed. And I've said it before. It's like, if you can win a match in 3 minutes, then why don't you always win a match in 3 minutes? Why don't you always treat every single match like it's a speed match? Pretend there's that 3 minute timer. And if this was a real combat sport and they introduced the speed thing, I feel like that's the mentality that a lot of competitors would probably walk into the ring or the octagon or whatever they were wrestling or fighting in. So yeah, I don't know, but I don't know. We've already talked longer about it than both matches combined.
Well, but I just quick, I would say, to sort of piggyback on that, I think if nothing else, if they gave more of a penalty to a draw, you could see a little bit more of sort of the aggro come out. But I think 3 minutes is what a standard MMA round is anyway. So they're trying to sort of recreate some of what that is. But again, in MMA, when the round ends, you have another round. And so I think if they're going to just do this 1 round deal, make it more of a penalty for a draw, i.e., you don't get to wrestle in the next 2 or 3 speed, right? You know what I mean? Like something where like you really are trying to force the action. And
Yeah.
then if I just might very quickly, Steve asked me about LFG. Um, and yes, Steve, I do think they rushed season 2 out. Um, I also know that they only just finished season 2 here in the last couple weeks, so I would imagine that they're not quite ready to roll out those winners yet. I would not, I'm not looking at that as a shortcoming, but I do think the season 2 rollout with most of largely the same performers that were in season 1 was sort of a trying to strike while the iron's hot, but you didn't really let Tasha May Steele and Jasper Troy kind of have their moment in the sun. So there's my piece on that.
And I would agree with you on that. I didn't watch. I haven't actually seen any episodes of LFG. Period. I plan on watching it at some point, but there's only so many minutes in the day. But yeah, I thought it was weird that they did season 2 like so close to the first one. I figured they'd wait. I figured they were going to wait a year to do it, but I guess you don't need to do that now that you're not beholden to cable TV and seasons and all of that in this streaming world. So, all right, let's move on here. There's something I want to talk about, but I think we're going to hold off on it. So we'll move to the Ethan Page promo. Talking about actually, wait a minute. No, sorry. We have one more match to talk about. Hank and Tank versus OTM. It's a pretty quick match. We saw. Oh wow, who actually? It was OTM that won. Yeah, it was OTM. OTM that won the match. I know I wrote the report, but I didn't actually write who won in my notes, so I totally just did that to myself. But no, this was a good match, I think, to kind of reintroduce OTM to the crowd. They were very hard hitting, and I don't want to say rough because they it's not like they were wrestling rough, but they just looked very I don't know what the adjective I'm looking for is.
They look far more cut and developed than they did their first time around. Like,
Totally.
I think they were told, get your buns in the gym and let's start taking that seriously. And I think they both did, and both looked really good on.
Yeah, they both look absolutely great. And intense. That's the word I was looking for. They had this really intense, this intensity about them tonight. Hank and Tank, obviously, I mean, they're going to give you what they're going to give you. I mean, most of their matches are kind of the same. One of them gets beaten up and hot tags the other one, and sometimes they win and sometimes they don't. So that kind of is what it is there. But I think really the talking point here is the return of OTM. Obviously they returned. It was the last week or the week before. It was first in-ring return for them. And I liked what I saw. Like Kevin said, I think they took this time off seriously, and I'm not sure exactly why they were off TV. If it had to do with them not developing fast enough or whatnot, but like Kevin said, they came back. They look better than they ever have. And the crowd is the crowd is solidly behind them too. And I mean, I feel like they're heels. At least they're kind of being positioned as heels. But I mean, they're definitely over right now. The crowd chanting OTM, with them. They were really happy to see. I think it was Tank that got put through the table. They went nuts when that happened. I think this is a good thing all around. It was a fun match, but like I said, I think this is a really good kind of re-debut for OTM. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so too. I think, speaking of Slater, Hank and Tank, God bless them, are starting to remind me a bit of Heath Slater, in that there's sort of that.
I got kids.
The team that certainly has the crowd behind them, but they're not going to win a whole lot. And listen, as we have always said, nobody wants to be Heath Slater, but everybody would be Heath Slater, right? Like he lasted, 18 years, something like that, before he got cut. So I say that with respect to those guys, because certainly you have to be able to go to get on TV. But this certainly was a showcase to reintroduce everybody to OTM, especially now that they have broke from Jada Parker, and they're going to try to reestablish their own identity. Um, it will be interesting to hear them um, talk. Like they've got to cut their first or second promo here back to see if they did any work in that way. But they certainly look the part. They certainly look like bruisers, and so I would very much love to see them be given a little bit of a push and see kind of what they can do with it. Um, so yeah, so I guess time will tell. But I thought the match did what it needed to do. The crowd loves Hank and Tank, and it was good to see them react positively to OTM despite them being on the heel side of tweener. Like I don't think that they necessarily did anything heel-y, but they certainly were not smiling and high-fiving. So
Yeah, no, exactly. All right, I'm going to rapid fire a few segments at you before we talk about the thing I've been wanting to talk the most about. All right, so Kalani Jordan and Jordan Grace backstage. Kalani, she was walking up to the NXT locker room, the women's locker room, and all of her stuff was on the ground in the women, Jada Parker, and there was some, I forget who, there was two women. I forget who the first one was, but the second person was Jada Parker, essentially kind of ousting Kalani from the NXT locker room since she is the TNA Knockouts champion, and she sided with TNA during Showdown. I was going to say Invasion. It wasn't Invasion. It was called Showdown. Jordan Grace walked up to her and kind of tried to defend her a little bit and said, "This is ridiculous," and blah, blah, blah. Kalani was like, "I don't really need you. I know you're jealous of me. I've got your title and you want it back, yada, yada." I think this is probably going to wind up leading into a TNA Knockouts title match between Kalani and Jordan, but that's just me. We'll see where that goes. So we get that segment. We had NXT Anonymous, saw Tavion Heights and Miles Bourne backstage talking, kind of, I guess, griping about their recent losses and how they should be better than this and yada, yada. Josh Briggs walks into the locker room and kind of accuses them of not paying attention to the things that Charlie Dempsey tried to teach them in the NQCC. So there's only room for one person at the top, and that's him, and walked out of the frame. And then the last one, there's two more. The Ethan Page promo for the Day of the Dead match, him versus Dr. Wagner. He at one point kind of turned and he had his face half of his face painted with like Day of the Dead makeup. I thought that was a really cool touch. But that's just kind of hyping up their match for next week. And then the last one was the Ren Sinclair Lash Legend Kendall Gray segment. Ren Sinclair was on the phone with Charlie Dempsey talking about makeup, Maybelline, for whatever reason. They got to get that plug for Maybelline in every week because
maybe she's born with it.
Maybe she's Maybelline. I don't know. Because I'm sure the key demographic for NXT are people that are using Maybelline. I don't know. I don't want to assume or judge or anything, but I don't know. It seems weird to me. But anyway, talking to Charlie Dempsey about Maybelline, she gets off the phone after Lash Legend was like, "Hey, you're too loud. Shush." She continues to talk to Lash Legend about Charlie Dempsey and how he hasn't been the same since NQCC had broken up. Lash kind of brushes her off, calls her stupid. Kendall Gray, the newly crowned Evolve champion, walks out and says she's not going to tolerate bullying in the locker room or something to that effect, and basically kind of stepped up to Lash and challenged her to a match. She didn't really challenge her to a match, but she said she's ready to fight at any time. So I think we're probably going to wind up seeing a match between her and Lash Legend at some point in the near future. So let me throw it to you, rapid fire on that segment, the Ethan Page segment, Kalani Jordan, and there we go.
All right, let's see if I can give rapid fire answers. The thing that stuck out to me about the Kalani Jordan thing, that was an awful lot of gear to be kept in a locker room when we see them walk in and out each week with big suitcases. Like, why is there that much stuff just sitting in your locker. That's what stuck out to me there. In serious with that though, I think it's a good sort of identity crisis storyline to play because you are an NXT wrestler who's carrying another company's belt right now. And so I thought it was just sort of an interesting, micro tribalism thing, right? Where the NXT girls are like, well, if you want to be with them, then go be with them. So we'll see how that plays out. The Ethan Page thing, I'm excited to see what this match looks like. I like that he did sort of take that extra step and paint his face because I know that sort of the face paint and the markings and the celebratory nature of Day of the Dead is a very important piece of that. And so I thought that was kind of cool that he sort of tried to embrace a bit of sort of the heritage of that. And so I'm excited to see that match because I did like when I watched the two AAA events that EO, Dr. Wagner, I really like what he brought to the table. So I'm excited to see him again. And then I didn't really think a whole lot about the women's segment. I feel like Lash Legend has worked so hard to get out of remember the little talk show they gave her where everything was
Lashing out
and like
with Lash Legend.
yes, and they worked so hard to sort of build her up as an actual person who wants to win a belt that to sort of bring her back to that was sort of regression in my opinion. And so I don't really know what the point of that. I mean, if she's going to squash Ren Sinclair, okay, like I don't know what's going to come out of that. So I kind of kept hoping, and I will keep hoping that they will keep pushing Lash beyond sort of the stereotypes and sort of what she came in as. And so I really didn't have a lot of thought about that one. So.
All right. And now I think we'll talk about the thing I've been waiting to talk about all night.
The big build up.
So we saw a bit of a video start to play a video package for Dark State, talking about their attack on the Hardys last week and kind of hyping up them, themselves and saying that they want to get their titles back, their NXT tag titles. Essentially stuff that they've been saying for weeks and whatever. To be honest, I kind of wasn't paying attention to a lot of what they were saying because it was a rehash of what they've said a million times before.
Would you say that you deleted it out of your memory banks?
Oh, I see what you did there. Then the screen kind of like went a little hazy real quick. We saw some glitching in the TV, and all of a sudden we see like some purple and the Hardy Boys logo cuts on the screen. And the next thing we know, we're at the Hardy compound, and the Hardys are walking through the broken universe. I think we saw a shot of Reba. We saw the gardener, and I can't think of his name from all of the TNA segments.
Don't worry, somebody in the chat.
Somebody in the chat will tell me. I know, but we saw the gardener there. The kids and all of that. The Hardys walked over to the now infamous Lake of Reincarnation, where we've seen so many moments from TNA, and we also saw Bray Wyatt get thrown in there.
Yes, Senor Benjamin, that a boy's right.
Senor Benjamin, that's it. Thank you, Ryan. I knew somebody was gonna remind me. And they walked into the lake. They submerged themselves as Matt and Jeff Hardy, and when they emerged from the lake, they were broken. We saw the return of broken Matt Hardy and Brother Nero. Matter of fact, I was not sure how to start this podcast. I was either going to do the Joe Hendry bit like I did, or I was going to, good man, holding up the Joe Hendry bust every time I say his name. I was either going to do that, or I was going to say something along the lines of, Brother Kevin, I knew you'd come. Because we heard that line come out of Matt Hardy tonight, talking about Brother Nero. And then Brother Nero says to Dark State, by just talking into the camera, it's not like they were physically in front of Dark State, that their match at Halloween Havoc is going to be a broken rules match, because in the broken universe, anything goes.
What a novel concept for a match, Nate. I have never seen an Anything Goes match before. I'm very excited for this.
I wonder what the difference between the Day of the Dead match
We're
And
gonna
the
find out.
broken rule, yes, as long as there are no zombies this year. I'm still bitter about those zombies like 4 or 5 years ago, however long ago that was. But yeah, I did not necessarily see this coming at all. When I saw them at the Hardy compound, I was like, "Ooh, I wonder if they're going to become the broken characters." But like, I still thought it was a long shot. And then when it happened, I was like, "Oh my God, this is amazing!" Um, big fan of the non WWE version of Broken Matt Hardy. Anyway, he had his moments in WWE, but the best of Broken Matt Hardy actually was the Woken Matt Hardy in WWE. That's right. But now where TNA and WWE are playing nice, I'm guessing they can call him Broken because they did. Um, yeah, after seeing at Bound for Glory, watching the kind of OG version of the Hardys and the Dudleys, in one last match, the Hardys even came out kind of like in their old school like 90, 97, 98 gear. Like those shirts that they would wear with Michael Hayes and whatever. Came out, kind of like old school gear, and then now seeing them go from that version back to this version, it's just kind of cool. Like I said, I wasn't necessarily expecting, especially for a feud with Dark State. Like I feel like they're, I don't know, for a moment like this with Dark State, just feels like maybe a little too much. But I love the Hardy Boys and I love the Broken Universe stuff, so I don't really care. That's just my personal opinion. But I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens moving forward for the Hardys, because obviously I don't think the Hardys are going to be NXT champions for very long. I would not be surprised if they end up dropping the titles back to Dark State here at Halloween Havoc. I'm hoping it doesn't happen because I'm not really sold on Dark State, and I don't want to necessarily have to be have them two-time NXT champions, and they haven't really become established yet as NXT might. But does this, do Matt and Jeff Hardy, like, do they continue this gimmick on Impact the next time that they're on Impact? Or is this kind of just a one-off thing that's only going to happen for this one match? And if it is a one-off thing that's just for this match, for however longer that the Hardys have in their tank, let's say it's another 3 or 4 years that the Hardys are wrestling, maybe not, could be less, but let's just say, do they wind up bringing out the broken characters, almost like Finn Balor brought the Demon out, just kind of whenever they need it, and they need to channel that extra energy, that extra strength, kind of the story that they gave us with the Demon character and Finn Balor. So I don't know. There's a lot of questions, coming out of this angle, but I'm a fan of this. I really think. Actually, Ryan's got a good point. I don't think TNA is going to be live till next year. I think I think most of their shows, if not all of them at this point, are taped. I think I do remember reading that somewhere. So, but yeah, so I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how this, see how this kind of plays out. And but I really like this. I really like this return, this unexpected return of Broken Matt and Brother Nero. What do you think?
Yeah, I hang on a second here. Sorry, I just had a tickle in my throat.
No problem. You're allowed.
I love the Broken Universe, and like you said it, and I was thinking it as you were saying it. I would have loved to have seen. I would love to see peak, healthy, broken Matt Hardy in this match,
Yeah.
because broke down, no cartilage in his knees, Matt Hardy is just hard to watch sometimes, because I think what's hard for me as someone who is now learning that time doesn't wait for anybody, and age catches up to you in different ways. You can see that in his brain, he's still the 22-year-old devil may care flying all over the place, but boy, his joints are not holding up for him. And it's sometimes it's just painful to watch him even just run the ropes, because just big plodding steps. And I know that he wishes he probably could even go back 10 years. But like I just remember watching clips online and sort of patching in when I could at peak broken Matt Hardy. And it was just such an innovative, cool take on sort of this alternate universe version of things. Um, and so I I will love it whenever I see it. But I would just love to see him have a bit more springiness in his joints than he does now. Um, and yes, you called on it, but I have been long waiting for the demon to come back. And so maybe now that the portal to the dark universe has been opened, maybe we will see Demon Finn Balor in the near future here. So
Yes.
yeah, but I think the match will be fine. I honestly hope they don't lose to Dark State, because if you're still trying to build Dark State as chaos agents, then the titles don't work with that, because now you're taking an anti-establishment group and building them into the establishment by making them champs. So I do think there are some other tag teams that could be better suited to beating the Hardys and could probably get a better rub from it. Like, I don't think Dark State gets anything by beating the Hardys, because it's four guys that sort of freebird their way through things. Where if you want to give a rub to a tag team, give a rub to the tag team. And maybe this could be, a next PLE match for the tag team of Leon Slater and Javon Evans, as a way of maybe giving them a bit of, you are where we were 25 years ago, so maybe you all can sort of take that torch and run with it. And so maybe that could be something we build too. So, yeah, I would like to see them win. Um, I would like to ask Matt if I could have one of his spare broken petticoats that he wears, because I think that thing is ballin'.
Yeah.
But other than that, yeah, I'd like to see them win. And we'll see kind of what movement Dark State can create around them on Saturday.
If the portal is open, can it be open long enough to suck in the Wyatt Six? Oof. Yeah, I don't know. I want to love the Wyatt Six. I really do. I really do. But yeah. Anyway, I think before we go on that tirade, that's going to be the end of our show. I'm Nate Lindberg. You can check the things I do out at natelindberg.com, or check me out here every Tuesday, because I'm more punctual than Kelly. Not really. I don't know. I had to throw shade at Kelly somewhere in the show, and I hadn't yet, so that was where I had to do it. Kelly should be back next week. Had to deal with some family stuff tonight. So, Kevin, thank you, as always, for pinch hitting for us.
Listen, in the spirit of the upcoming World Series, I am always warm in the bullpen. And you can find me all over the internet sphere at KP Cattani. Would love to chat about lots of things. Certainly my interests lie in wrestling and Magic the Gathering and brain health, and finding intersection points between all those. But certainly anytime you want to reach out, I would love to engage. Thank you, Ryan, for ending our show in a very classic way there. Nate, would you like to take that one, as I know you like saying that? Go ahead.
Well, to end our show, well, actually, before we do that, it looks like Derek's calling for Kelly versus Nate in an Atlanta street fight. So, Kelly, yeah, the challenge has been thrown down.
Gauntlet has been thrown.
Gauntlet has been thrown. So we'll see what happens next week, if Kelly responds or not. Probably not. I don't think he ever listens back to the show. Gotta call him out, right? All right. And with that, I will leave you with Horseshoe.